Hi there, folks. Is everybody ready to get started on the 18th annual Sparks City Hop Tour? We are. My name is Adora. This is my husband and co-host, Eric. And on the trolley with us, as our amazing Lolly the Trolley skilled operator, is Brian.
We know that we're in unprecedented times right now, but we wanted to take this opportunity to celebrate all the wonderful things that Sparks does and share with you some of the unique highlights about Cleveland's history. That's what we're going to do today, right here on Lolly the Trolley.
So before we get started, we wanted to make sure to do a shout out to our sponsor, K&D Real Estate Development and Management Services. All over Greater Cleveland, they provide residents with comfortable and accommodating living environments, professionally cared for and managed by a terrific staff with one sole purpose, and that purpose is to serve residents by creating a sense of community, something that we in Cleveland are all about. We'll be pointing out a couple of the properties today as we go along our tour, knowing that you, like us, may be thinking about a time when you find yourself an empty nester or a single, but not us. So what's today's route look like?
So today we're starting off right here in Playhouse Square. Playhouse Square is the heart of the theater district. It's a very special place for me because I'm a theater artist, and this is a place where I feel most comfortable and most celebrated. The thing that I find really remarkable about Playhouse Square is the fact that there are 5 theaters here: the Palace, the Ohio, the State, the Allen, and the Hannah right next to us. All 5 of those theaters were created between the years of 1921 and 1922. The thing that's fascinating about that is that it was shortly after the 1918 epidemic. So it gives us encouragement and hope about what we might be able to do once we get back to normal times here in the United States, and in particular here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, it's really exciting because Playhouse Square today attracts millions of visitors every year, and people feel like it was the start of the rejuvenation of our city. So that really lets us think about and start to imagine what might be possible post-pandemic.
And speaking of what might be possible, Brian, let's start up old Lolly the Trolley and see what else we can see on our city hop to Ohio City.
As we depart, it is really worth pointing out that we are right in the middle of the artistic hub, as Eric pointed out. Across the street is the arts campus for Cleveland State University, the heart of the galleries at CSU, and I'm looking at them right now. It's in the historic Cowell and Hubbard building, and the galleries are currently closed. We're in the middle of a pandemic after all, but they are showcasing the amazing work of students. And I'm checking to see right now, to check out the virtual exhibit, you just need to Google galleries at CSU and follow the prompts.
And right here, we're coming to one of our sponsors, Residency. K&D's Residency at the Hannah Theater. A series of apartments they have, yes, Adora?
Yep, and if you just want to stay at home, all 16 of the different floor plans in the building have granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, porcelain tile floors, custom cabinets, and so much more. Plus, in the building, there's a fitness center, market, Starbucks, and a copy machine access and on-site parking. So this is a place where you can feel really comfortable in the heart of downtown and in the heart of Playhouse Square. Just come on down and experience everything that we have to offer
You
here.
can also feel a bit like a star because here in Playhouse Square there are 2 professional theaters that we have. Great Lakes Theater right there, the marquee is right before us, and the Cleveland Playhouse behind us, and the Allen Theater and the Outcalt Theater as well as the Helen. So you too could be a star here in Cleveland.
And as we talk about these residences downtown and being a star in Cleveland, it's interesting to note that in the past 10 years, from 2009 to 2019, the population of downtown Cleveland went from about 5,000 people to somewhere upwards of 20,000 people in 5 years. By the year 2030, a study conducted by the Downtown Cleveland Alliance, or DCA, as those of us who know and love them call them, finds that the area could approach or exceed 30,000 residents, making it the most populated downtown area in all of Ohio. Go Cleveland.
It's kind of fun because Adora and I were away from Cleveland for a while. I'm a native Clevelander. Adora has relatives who are here in the Cleveland area. And when we were away, Cleveland was in a period of transition, and now we're really at a point where we can celebrate all the wonderful achievements that are happening within the city. We're going to be turning onto Carnegie Avenue here in 2 seconds. There's an establishment, a well-established Cleveland a restaurant. Aladdin's restaurant is right off to your left. Aladdin's is known for its Middle Eastern fare as well as its pitas. I'm a huge fan of pitas. We have 2 sons, and our oldest son, Ezekiel, used to have cheese pitas for lunch every day during his years in high school.
Now we're making that turn.
During this guide, I hope you can feel it as we made this turn on Lolly the Trolley. Brian did a wonderful job. We're going to be coming to one of our homes of sports, Progressive Field, where the baseball team plays. Now, Cleveland, of course, you know we have a rocky history of success and failure with Cleveland sports, but we've had a number of really remarkable Cleveland artists. Of Cleveland athletes, specifically on the baseball team. I'm going to highlight the pitchers in particular because we're coming on an anniversary of Cy Young. Cy Young is often thought of as one of the best pitchers in all of baseball history here in the United States. And of course, there's the Cy Young Award. He played right here in Cleveland. We also have older Clevelanders will remember Bob Feller, seeing Bob Feller with his amazing fast pitch. And Satchel Paige was also a Clevelander and played for the Cleveland team when they won in 1948, won the World Series. And my Uncle Art used to remember very vividly watching Satchel Paige in his big windup where he would take his big long leg and take it down and pitch that ball, that fastball right down there. And Satchel Paige played here in Cleveland.
And as the team and our city and indeed our world responds to so much of what's happening across the country, there are some other names being considered for the Indians. And I wanted to bring some of them up. The Spiders, the Guardians. And we know why we'll talk a little bit about the Guardians maybe later. The Rockers.
The Rockers, of course, the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes
yeah.
The Buckeyes were the team that was based in Cleveland from the Negro Leagues.
And then one you'll never figure out, the Naps.
Yeah, I don't think I understand that one. No, it's okay. Maybe you'll figure it out.
Before we cross over to the bridge, and I think we can see it right there. Oh, that's great. This is museum right there. I want to point out sort of a little known gem of our city, the Western Reserve Fire Museum and Education Center. In addition to highlighting the Cuyahoga River Fire of 1969, which every comedian across the country thought that we were just easy fodder. Talk about the river that burned in Cuyahoga. But there's artifacts that talk about that, but it also features exhibits and artifacts about the history of firefighting and prevention dating all the way from the 1700s. It's incredibly interesting. There's some terrific fire trucks and artifacts on the walls, and it's well worth the trip for anyone interested in the history of firefighting, an automotive buff, or someone who just wants to know some really interesting facts about Cleveland.
Now, native Clevelanders know that our city is often thought of as East Side and West Side. There are a number of reasons for this, one of them, of course, being that the Cuyahoga River splits the city in two. This happens a lot with cities, but Cleveland is unique in that I think that in all the cities Dora and I have lived in, this city is so passionate about its East Side and West Side. And there are a number of reasons beyond just the topography. Some of you may know Ohio City, the neighborhood that we're going to be visiting, was actually its own city at one point. Cleveland was only on the east side of the Cuyahoga River. Ohio City was located on the west side. And they were kind of sister cities for a while in the 19th century. However, a rivalry grew between these two as Cleveland started to grow and become more prosperous. There was one pontoon boat, as I know it, there was one pontoon bridge that would link the two cities that would cross the river. Now, Cleveland, because it was a little bit more prosperous, was able to build its own bridge, and they chose to go a little bit south of Ohio City and created what was called the Christopher Street Bridge. Now, you can imagine that the residents of Ohio City didn't think very good about this new bridge, and so rumblings happened. In 1836, these rumblings turned into a full-scale quote-unquote war on October 31st, Halloween night, 1936. A group of Ohio City residents grabbed their pitchforks and their knives and their chairs and maybe even a cannon, and they brought it up to blow up the bridge. Well, not to be outdone, some Clevelanders got their pitchforks and their knives and their cannons and brought it over, and they did a lot of yelling at each other. As I understand it, not many people were hurt, thankfully. Words were exchanged, though, and eventually the ruckus died down. However, in the 1850s, Ohio City was eventually annexed to Cleveland and became part of Cleveland. But those same strong feelings still exist to this day in 2020. And the east side and the west side have many differences. But today, on the Sparks Tour, we're going to be uniting both of those sides, the east side and the west side, as we celebrate all of Cleveland.
And as we celebrate all of Cleveland, we want to acknowledge on both east and west side, there are diverse communities and so many amazing things. One of the things we want to point out as we cross the bridge is Mitchell's Ice Cream. Over on that side, Citizen Pie Pizza and the Glass Bubble Project, a workshop of glass blowers and artisans. There's Cosmic Dave Sub Shop and even a coffee shop or a cafe where they have up to 60 games that you can play with friends. I didn't count to make sure that there's 60 games. That's something we challenge you to do.
Yeah, our youngest son and I actually went to that game shop. I was just remembering. We didn't count them all, but what's so great about that place is you can tell them what you're interested in, and they will bring a game. They will bring a series of games to you that might fit your needs or your interests. So it's a great place to be. I know, speaking of great places, the West Side Market is right now on your right-hand side. The West Side Market is a century-old institution that has a special place in my heart because 5 generations of my family, so my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my father, Adora and I, and our sons have all shopped at the open-air market there at the West Side Market. Now, when my father went there, he had stories of going and they would pick out their chickens live, and they'd cut the chicken home live because they had to butcher it when they got home, which he didn't much care for. Thankfully, we live in a different era now, and in 2020 we don't butcher the animals at home, but there's all kinds of produce and wonderful things that you can get. We noticed when we were going through here that the West Side Market is open. They're practicing safe distancing practices, but they are open for business. So come check them out even now here in the late part of the summer in Cleveland.
It's one of our favorite things to do. And also one of our favorite things to do is visit Market Square Park right outside here to my right. The home of Open Air in Market Square, which is a series of events on Saturdays from June through October, and don't worry, it will be back, featuring vendors, artisans, kids programming, live entertainment, and any sort of entertainment that you can think of. It is one of the most exciting times to be down by the West Side Market when the festival's going in full swing. There's always something interesting to check out and to explore. Oh, on the left, before I forget, we've got the very swanky Crop and Bistro. It is set in a former 1925 bank, and it features a 5,000 square vault that serves as a private dining room. I always say that when you have dinner there, you can smell the money.
Nice. Well, Cleveland, you're going to notice on this tour that we have a number of repurposed buildings, which is a great example of how we can use our imagination to create brand new things. I know we just asked Farkas
Bakery, yeah. They've been serving Napoleon since 1966, and their Old World Bakery pastries have been featured in the Plain Dealer, Ethnic Eats, and Fox 8's morning show. So definitely somewhere worth visiting.
We're in the middle right now of one of Cleveland's staunch organizations. This is St. Ignatius High School. Now, our son went to one of our sons went to St. Edward's High School.
And so did Brian.
And so did Brian, our wonderful driver. St. Ignatius, though, has a storied history as an education institution. It's got wonderful athletics and wonderful arts. I'm going to mention the Breen Center, which is to your left right now. The Breen Center is a brand new arts facility that services performing arts It does a lot of performing arts for St. Ignatius High School, but it's also open to the public. And I've worked on several productions there. The folks that run the Breen are just lovely, and the facility is gorgeous. It's really a gem here in Cleveland. And can do everything from dance to theater. I think there have been some screenings of films at the Breen Center too. So when we get back to normal times, definitely check out the Breen Center.
And even before we get back to normal times, if you would like to explore Ohio City, one of the ways to explore it is to think about architecture and to look at churches. We're going to pass a lot of churches, and each one of them is unique and different and well worth checking out. So it's something you can do. Wear your mask, be properly socially distanced, get your walking shoes out, and come check out the churches in Ohio City. Great. We're coming up on Platform Beer Company, which is going to be on my
right
there left. Platform was founded in 2014 on the premise that collaboration should be at the cornerstone of everything, whether it's professional brewers working together, someone brewing at home, or a bunch of folks just sitting around tasting a new brew. And that sort of speaks to the dichotomy of Ohio City. We're going to talk about things that started in 2014 and things that started in 1700. Platform brews high-quality craft beers distributed throughout Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New York City, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Another way that is something very similar to our Cleveland neighborhoods. We're at the epicenter of many things. This location that we're passing right there offers more than 20 beer options, food, and a spacious tasting room. And most importantly, a patio.
Yes, especially these times. Mason's Creamery was the creamery that I was thinking of. The reason I think Mason's Creamery is unique is that I noticed that in the wintertime they switch over to do ramen noodles. So they do noodles in the winter and wonderful ice creams during the summer times.
And maybe that's why one of the names suggested for our baseball team was naps, because if you eat all this stuff,
you're taking a nap.
Yeah,
that's probably what it is. Okay, we're coming up on your right.
Forest City Shuffleboard. Yeah.
It's a great space. So instead of, Cleveland's often known for bowling. However, the Shuffleboard place is a great indoor and outdoor space where you can play shuffleboard. You can rent one of the shuffleboards. They also have leagues. They do have an outdoor shuffleboard facility and a patio there. This area here between the in the 50s, in the West 50s, along Lorraine Avenue, farther to your right, there are a number of neighborhood gardens and things. There's also a park in there. So if you are walking through Ohio City, doing some exploring, that's a great place to go in and see the work of people's green thumbs and the things that they're doing in their homes to celebrate Cleveland, especially at this time when some of us have not been able to get out. We've gotten a chance to kind of celebrate our homes.
So we just passed Nook and Cranny Antiques. It's a great salvage store. Lots of places to find things for your shabby chic directions. Make sure you call ahead. They are open, but you do need to plan, and it's a place to find some amazing things. Oh wait, did you say? Did you mention that since 2010, Ohio City has been home to the Ohio City Farm?
Ohio City Farm. This is an amazing place. If you haven't been, it's over by the West Side Market. It is a repurposed. So we talked about repurposing. There's a repurposed section of land. It's one of the biggest contiguous urban farms in the country, and it has a series of organizations that farm and grow crops. If I'm not mistaken, Green Lakes Brewery also grows some crops that they use for their menu that they do there. So it's a great space. I think it's closed right now, but once things open up a little bit more, you can definitely check it out.
And we're just passing the Michael Zone Recreation Center and Park, another great recreational place on the west side. They, I think rehabbing is the name of the game. They were both rehabbed in 2011. It turned an old urban park into a state-of-the-art facility featuring a Little League and adult softball diamond. It's a perfect spot for activities in the next few months before we get to that thing that we're all dreading, our Cleveland winter.
I'll say our sons and I attended a puppetry workshop over there the zone recreational center, sponsored by Ohio City Playhouse. It was a great experience. So it's used for a variety of different things.
St. Coleman's Catholic Church. I'm just going to point out churches as we go by. I think we've passed 5 of them since we mentioned churches. Want to also mention that Cleveland was the tiny house experiment that happened back in this neighborhood off of 58th Street. Did you want to say something about that?
Sure. So the Cleveland Playhouse developed a play that explored this movement going around the country of tiny houses. People trying to use as little as possible so that we can conserve resources. And there are 2 examples of that in living experience over there off of Superior in the 50s.
So another thing to Google, track down, put your walking shoes on, and check it out.
With your mask on.
With the mask on. We're heading now towards the Detroit Trolley neighborhood. It's one of Eric's favorite neighborhoods, and he's going to tell you why. I'm not going to give it away. In the mid-'80s, strong laborers and old world craftsmen from Puerto Rico, Italy, Romania, and so many countries throughout Europe focused their talent and determination on some big Cleveland projects. They settled and created in this area, but the neighborhood's buildings crumbled over time, especially during times of economic hardship. So into the 1970s, this was not the vibrant neighborhood that's called the Gordon Square Arts District that it is now.
It's really a reflection of what's happened to Cleveland over the past 30 years, in that it's gone from a pretty highly industrial neighborhood, manufacturing-based neighborhood, to an arts neighborhood. And it's really the thing that I find inspiring about the Gordon Square District is that it's the arts that have been the
driving force.
Yes, that have really sprung all of this development happening, led in great part by Cleveland Public Theater, which we will see in 2 seconds. We're going to, the other thing that's cool about this is it's a 7-block district, and the arts have totally renovated this whole area and made this whole area a vital place for people to live, to work, to play, to shop, and to celebrate all the things that we have here in Cleveland. We've just crossed Detroit, so we're going to continue north on West 65th Street. We just passed Isadora pointing out the Capitol Theater.
Before we go to the Capitol Theater, which is the amazing space, we passed Brew Nuts. So if you're in this area, stop, have a donut and beer. You won't regret it. To go together.
Enormous donuts.
Enormous. And then Capitol Theater, a great place to see a movie. I believe they just opened last week. It's an anchor theater, a not performing arts, but a visual theater in this neighborhood. Something well worth supporting. And we also passed Toast Restaurant. Shout out to Toast, one of my favorite restaurants all along this area.
It's cute. It's homey. They have amazing cocktails. If you get the cocktails, and
and they have ginger ale on tap. Our 14-year-old knows
Yeah,
this.
that's true. That's right. That's right. The folks who are not taking alcoholic drinks, they have options there for them too. We're going to continue heading north here on West 65th Street. If you continue all the way to the lake, and then a little bit farther to the west, we're going to get to Edgewater Park. Edgewater Park is another place that has some personal connections for me, because my father, who was a West Sider, I should have mentioned this earlier as we were crossing the river. My parents were like the Romeo and Juliet of Cleveland. My mother grew up on the near east side, and then eventually Cleveland Heights. My father grew up on the near west side, over by the zoo. But for recreation, they would come out to Edgewater Park. Edgewater Park is a 9,000 foot beach. It has a brand new deck with restaurants. It's great. It has an upper level and a lower level. If you have hounds, if you want to take your dog for a walk, and you want to enjoy the wonderful topography, all the different trees and the wonderful views of the lake. It has some of the best views of the sunset. We can do these things even in the era of the pandemic, because we can keep socially distanced. We've taken our dog Clarence there. We've tried to teach him how to get along with other dogs when we're out in the world. And Edgewater Park is a great place to explore.
So as we go through some of these neighborhoods, Eric talked about going on foot, taking your dog. You don't want to forget that this area is a great place to get on your bike. Gordon Square specifically and Cleveland in general are recognized nationally as one of the most foot and pedal-friendly communities in the country, with a plethora of bike lanes on main roads, bike trails, sidewalks, and the Lakefront Bikeway, which runs roughly parallel to Detroit Avenue, a bit north of here, for 17 miles. So that's something you can park your car and get your bike out. And want to shout out to some really awesome shops like the Blazing Saddle Cycle, which sells bikes and accessories for casual bikers and racers, and is also in this neighborhood. Ohio City is one of the fastest growing neighborhoods in the city, and one of 3 neighborhoods to gain population in the last census. So it's one of only 3 neighborhoods to gain population at the last census. It's also Cleveland at its most diverse, boasting recordable populations of white, black, Hispanic, Asian, American Indian, and Pacific Islander populations. So we're all sort of holding our breath to see if the trend continues after the current census is completed. And small plug to make sure you get your forms in.
That's right. We're going to be going back out on Detroit, and we're going to be heading towards one of the, we spoke about repurposing different buildings and structures. And so one of the buildings and structures that has been revitalized and kind of transformed over its history is the 78th Street Studios. So the 78th Street Studios, as I understand them, started out as a manufacturing organization, institution, business. It has 170,000 square feet. And then for American Greetings at that time when they were at 78th Street Studios. American Greetings is now farther out west, and the 78th Street Studios have been repurposed into a magnificent collection of fine arts galleries, performing arts centers. A blank canvas theater is located there. There's also a radio station, and Alternative Press is located, the second largest rock and roll magazine
in the nation.
In 78th Street Studios.
And to speak to the radio station that Eric mentioned, it is our region's biggest internet rock station. Yeah, so, because you know, we are the rock and roll capital. Just get that out there.
I believe they have, is it called Third Thursdays? Is that what they have there? There's Third Thursdays, I think, just started.
Or is it Fridays?
Fridays. Is it Fridays? Yes. I'm sorry,
Thank
I'm being
you.
corrected. So Third Fridays has just started once again, and that's sort of like an open house for different organizations that are housed within the mad complex that is 78th Street Studios. So check them out online. There's information about the hours for that. It's a great thing. I think it's, again, maintaining social distancing, safely distancing.
So we're giving you lots of options. You can explore churches, park your car and do that by foot. You can take your dog and walk along the lakefront. You can get your bicycle out, or, as Eric just mentioned, you could just drive up to this old warehouse, 78th Street warehouse, and explore, not traveling very far. And you can do that all in Ohio City.
You know, I have to give a huge cheer for our kind and very talented trolley driver, Brian, because we're going through some very intricate little streets here, and he is doing it without tipping, without breaking a sweat, and it's a lovely trip as we're going through this part of Ohio City.
And sort of highlighting some of the new buildings and residences we have right here next to the lake.
Yep. So you can see, I believe we're getting a shot of Lake Erie off over there. There's folks playing with their dogs. And here's some of the new housing here in the Ohio City district area.
So one of the reasons people love living in Ohio City, and we're going to go back to Detroit in a little bit, but there are an incredible amount of bars, restaurants, boutiques, art venues, and so much more. So folks who live in these homes know that there's something almost every day of the week. So as we drive down the streets, we're really doing our best to highlight things. But once again, we can't highlight the amazing, and if we could go straight to the beach that way. But we can't highlight the amazing amount of things that there are. We really, really encourage you to get in your car, park, and walk around.
Well, Dora just sort of mentioned something that we can highlight. So there is so the shoreway is right behind you right now, going north towards the lake. There has been constructed just within the past 5 years a means of getting walking underneath the shoreway. So you can park
here
in
and walk through.
Ohio City, do some things in Ohio City, then go walking over and say you want to go check out the lake for a sunset. You can just walk over there, go underneath, take that path underneath the shoreway, and boom, you're right there on Edgewater Park.
So that's one of the beautiful things about our city on a lake.
And off to your right are some wonderful examples of the housing
The
here in
older
Ohio
homes.
City.
So where are we going to turn now?
Going on
Detroit.
Detroit.
Well, like back. Detroit.
Yeah.
Gordon
So we're making a loop back towards Gordon Square. And I'm going to find another factoid. As
And
we-
you know what's remarkable about Detroit is that Detroit is one of those streets that will go, it starts here, it starts as you cross over the river. We're going to go to the bridge here in a second. But it goes all the way out to the far
Another
reaches
church.
of the region. Yeah, it goes all the way out. Detroit goes all the way out to the far reaches of the region. It kind of ties Cleveland, the outer suburbs, with the inner part of Cleveland.
We just passed a mural, and maybe you'll see it, but we'll probably catch some other murals. But just want to make sure that if you still are really, really cautious about going inside and maybe don't want to visit some of the things that we talked about, here's a really easy thing you can do that's pretty socially distant and you'll feel safe. Gordon Square has murals alongside many of the walls and buildings in this neighborhood. And to access a map of all the murals, all you have to do is go to gordonsquare.org and follow the prompts to the art section of the site. And once you're there, you'll there's a map that you can print out, and you can walk from mural to mural and be amazed and awed by our local painters and artists.
We just passed Sweet Moses on your left-hand side. Yes, it's going to grab your heart. Because Sweet
Amazing,
Moses
odd.
is a wonderful creamery, ice creamery. They also have handmade chocolates. Our second son, Arthur,
Phosphates.
loves their phosphates. It's a great place to come have an ice cream as you're walking around throughout this district. Our first son, Zeke, when we first went to Sweet Moses, after he had his ice cream, was so inspired that he started walking up and down Detroit telling all the
Telling
people
everybody.
that they've got to go to Sweet Moses because this is the best ice cream ever.
We just pushed past Brunuts again, but one shout out to Sweet Moses. First of all, it's named for Moses Cleveland, who is the founder of Cleveland, but it also has an homage to a structure we're going to talk about and most of us know called the Terminal Tower. So it has, I don't know how many kinds of ice cream, but up to 28 people can finish it. But if you can eat it by yourself, I believe they'll put your picture on the walls of Sweet Moses.
Yes.
So, something
Man
to check
versus
out.
Food. I think it was a Man versus Food. So we just now passed one of the arts organizations that's really close to my heart, Cleveland Public Theater. Cleveland Public Theater is really kind of the heart of the Gordon Square Arts District in many ways. It's been there for a number of years and it's really grown both in its artistic programming and its physical space, led by Raymond Bobkin and Beth Wood. It has really been a supporter of Cleveland artists through new play development, through devised theater, and through creating dialogue about issues that are important to Clevelanders right now. And one of the things I find quite inspiring about the work of Cleveland Public Theater is its ability to try and reach out and touch the communities that are located here, to try and foster work by those communities. So the Latin community in this neighborhood, as well as the Arab community, really made a strong effort to celebrate those voices, letting those voices speak to issues that are important to them.
And while Eric was telling me about CPT, which is one of the most amazing theaters I think in the nation, but we have other theaters that we'll be talking about too. We passed Happy Dog, which not so highbrow, more more
Earthy.
earthy. It's a way to have a hot dog any way you want it.
And vegetarian hot dogs.
And vegetarian hot dogs too. I encourage you to drive by Happy Dog.
I'm going to jump in. We just passed Tailspinners
Another
Children's
theater.
Theater
Yeah.
on your right-hand side. They're the first professional children's theater in the country, in the city. We also, near West Theater, we passed earlier. Near West Theater is also located in Ohio City. A wonderful celebrant of multi-generational performing arts here.
And it's a great place for young theater artists to get a start.
Yeah.
And so as we're thinking about all those amazing theaters, we're also thinking about making sure you nurture your stomach before you go to the theater. And one of the restaurants we passed, Flight Cleveland, it was on my right. It's a terrific little wine bar and wine shop that has indoor and outdoor tasting areas. And they also offer, for those of us who don't want to be out right now, they have virtual wine tastings during this pandemic season. And then we also passed Astoria, that was on
their right.
Yeah. Wonderful sampling of Mediterranean and tapas style food. And if you're too tired to get a basket and cook, you just settle into a table there. They are open too, and they'll pamper you at their on-site outside cafe.
We're going to come up on the Harp Restaurant too. The Harp is Irish based. You know, of course, we have a huge Irish American community here in Cleveland. So the Harp has wonderful Irish fare as well as wonderful Irish music.
And
it's often have there.
challenge
They have a great patio there.
Right
too.
there, amazing patio. And right opposite the Harp, many of you who, we just passed
Cleveland
the
Bagel.
Cleveland Bagel. Cleveland Bagel, I think you pointed out, was one of the first restaurants to open after the pandemic in a socially distanced way. A great place to pick up a bagel and then go across and eat it on the beach. That's an amazing experience. We also passed a new high school that just opened. I believe it's the West Side High School.
Yep.
It's now called, it was in the old Max Hayes area, and many of us have been passing that construction for years, and it looks amazing and well worth exploring.
On your left-hand side, we're going to be coming up on the Bop Stop. The Bop Stop was created specifically for jazz music. You know, Cleveland has a long history of supporting jazz and being a stop on the jazz circuit. This space was created really with jazz music in mind, so that the acoustics are all set up to really give you a personal experience of jazz. It's now run by the Music Settlement School.
And we just passed Spaces.
We just passed Spaces, yes. A wonderful fine arts establishment. They have a brand new exhibit that's on until October 9th. Transformer Station is on the opposite side of that. Another wonderful fine arts establishment here in the Ohio City district.
You need like 2 tours to get through everything.
We mentioned that that the West Side has some really hot property here. You'll see that there's all kinds of construction going on. On the opposite side of the construction, on your right-hand side, nestled in there is a little church called St. John's Episcopal Church. It was the first consecrated church in Cleveland. It's also particularly important because it was the last stop on the Underground Railroad, and its nickname. You know, the Underground Railroad was secret, so it had a number of code names as you went along, and codes so that people who were escaping enslavement could safely make it, and they used these code words. The code word for St. John's was Station Hope, because it was the last stop. So folks could make it to that last stop at St. John's. They could be safely housed there until it became dark, and they could make it to boats on Lake Erie that would take folks on to Canada.
And what's really interesting, and something that we can't envision in modern day Ohio City, is that from that church, which was right behind there, you could actually see the lake. You could see down to the lake. So when you stole away to get on those boats, you were visible to people who maybe weren't so friendly. And one of the things that I find sort of inspiring is the tales that bells would ring in the different churches in Ohio City to tell you when it was safe, mothers, children, men, to sneak down to the lake to make their way to Canada. And I think we're going to talk about a festival.
About 8 years ago, Cleveland Public Theater partnered with the city to celebrate the history of Station Hope. And it's a wonderful celebration. It usually happens in May. It's an outdoor celebration that it usually includes about 250 different Cleveland-based artists as we celebrate the history of Station Hope and social justice. This year it was provided virtually. God bless Cleveland Public Theater for doing that. So hopefully in 2021 there'll be a regular outdoor event to celebrate that really unique and important part of Cleveland history.
It is one of the most unique, inspiring events in Cleveland. So check it out next year. We just passed West 25th, and you might have caught a glimpse of the Superior Viaduct. It was dismantled in 1923 because it was outdated, and this bridge that we're now on, which is the Detroit Superior Bridge, opened.
Right. The thing that was interesting about the viaduct was it was one of the longest bridges, and it enabled people to get across the river by carriage or by walking. It was in the late 19th century. However, a portion of it had to be lifted up and moved so that ships could get in, and that took forever. So the thing that was unique about the Detroit Superior Bridge is that it was high enough that ships could get underneath it without having to stop traffic the whole time. Now, it's one of the biggest bi-level double-decker bridges too. There's a place for streetcars to go underneath where we just drove. And I always think of that because my own father used to take that when he was a boy. If he was coming into the city from the west side, he sometimes had to take the streetcar on that lower part, and it scared him to death because he was underneath the bridge and thought something terrible was going to happen. It's been dismantled now.
But is it this bridge or that bridge that was renamed the Veterans?
It was renamed Veterans Memorial Bridge in honor of the veterans here in Cleveland.
Yeah. And Eric talked about how long that bridge was, and I just want to throw a number out at you. It is 3,112 feet long. It was, when it was built, the world's largest double-deck concrete reinforced bridge.
That's a lot to get out.
I know. So I think we're approaching Public Square?
Yes, we're approaching one of the more recognizable features of Cleveland's downtown. Native Clevelanders will recognize Public Square. Public Square has been the site of many historic events. One of the ones that always sticks in my mind was after President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, to help the entire country mourn, his body was brought from Washington, D.C. back to Springfield, Illinois. It made several stops along the way, and one of the key stops was here in Cleveland. The reason it's so poignant is when President Lincoln was elected, before he was inaugurated, he made the same trek from Springfield to Washington, D.C. and stopped here in Cleveland. So that would have been in 1861. So 1865, after his body was brought back here, there was you can find these online too. There are photographs of the funeral that was set up here on Public Square, where folks could come and mourn his loss. So Cleveland's really been a part of the United States for its 200 years of existence.
The United States history. We've always been a part of the United States.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's part of the history.
But what's really amazing about those pictures is that it right now in 2020, the year that never ends, you can look at Public Square and recognize our city in those pictures from the 1800s.
Now we're turning towards another icon in Cleveland, and that's the Terminal Tower. This has another part of my personal family history. The other side of my family, the Irish side, they worked on the railroads. And the railroads were, many of the railroads went, Cleveland was a hub of railroad activity, and they went through Terminal Tower. Terminal Tower, as we talked about repurposing, has now been repurposed into residencies. In fact, these residencies are managed by our sponsor, K&D Properties. There are apartments there, and they go from 550 square feet, one bedrooms, to like 12,000 square foot.
There's a 1,600
townhouses.
square foot penthouse.
Penthouse,
which
it's a
is where
1,600 square
I
foot
want
penthouse.
to live.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, one day. And they provide wonderful views of the city right here. They're also, you're right in the heart of it all. They're totally renovated facilities. And if you're living here, you have easy access to Tower City and the indoor trek to Progressive Field. So you can go see in the regular days when we're able to go see baseball games again.
And basketball.
And basketball games. You can go, it's like in your backyard. It's like right there in your backyard. You just go see
And
Cavs.
if you want to eat, we just passed the Warehouse District, and that's also easily accessible from the Terminal Towers residences.
Now this whole area has been totally repurposed.
Oh, don't forget to talk about it.
Yes, and so that it's able, we're able to do this ice skating in the wintertime, around Christmas time. It's decorated for Christmas, and also we're getting a wonderful shot of the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial. This was created after the Civil War to celebrate the veterans of the Civil War. Ohio, of course, providing many, many soldiers to the Union Army. We'll talk on another tour to Tremont. Cleveland had a number of facilities where we trained soldiers. But that is a monument, and the inside of the monument has recently been renovated too. Right now it's closed because of the pandemic, but when things are opened up again, it's a great place to go in there and check because it's been totally renovated, and has. What's also been recently found was a number of black soldiers who fought in regiments in Ohio. They're commemorated also in that facility.
So we just passed East 4th Street. Again, some things are open, some things are not, but it is one of the hub areas of the downtown. Are we?
I think we're just coming up on it, didn't we?
Did we? Oh yeah, we're coming. No, that's 6.
Oh, E6.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we East 4th, East 6. But as you're putting together your post-pandemic list, make sure you have the sailors and soldiers
the monument
yes, on there, and then also make sure that you visit East 4th and East 6th, this area, because it's a great place to walk around, both now and post-pandemic. We're also going to come up in a little bit. Have we yet? We're waiting at a light, but I'll get this in right now. One of the buildings that that K&D manages is the Residences at 668, and this building is a little different than the other buildings. It's more mixed use, and it has 2 on-site restaurants, retail stores, and a business center. But it still features completely updated suites in 36 different floor plans, so there's got to be something for you. So it's for the urban dweller who wants to be within walking distance of sporting events, museums, the lakefront, and so much more. And I think one of the things you're hearing again and again on this Ohio City tour is that there is something for everyone.
And repurposing.
Repurposing.
We're going to be crossing East 9th Street here in 2 seconds. On the corner of East 9th Street in Euclid is the brand new, relatively brand new Heinen's building.
Oh yeah.
The Heinen's store is a repurposing of the
Cleveland Trust
Bank, which our relatives all
banked at
came to
right
visit.
there.
Yeah, once I think I read it's going to be open soon. When it is open again, it's a great place to come visit. Not only is it a great grocery store and hooray for the Heinen's brothers for supporting Cleveland, but it's also been renovated on the inside. So there's a series of murals, and you can go up on the 2nd floor. They have wines on tap and beer on tap. They have meals that you can purchase, and then just kind of hang out and be a part of the history that's celebrated in the Rotunda there, which is amazing.
I was going to say, one of the things to put on your post-pandemic list is to walk in there and look up. You won't regret it. Make sure you have your phone, but the Rotunda is amazing.
You just passed the Halley store. So the Halley store is another place that has a place in my heart because One of my great aunts was the soup lady at the Halley restaurant. Halley's has also been renovated and is now a K&D property.
Yep. And one more suitable for young families. So if you have a young family and would like to live downtown, that's a property you can check out.
I believe in those apartments they have indoor washer and dryers.
Yep.
For each one of the units, as well as fireplaces in the living rooms.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
And then while we're talking about fireplaces and residences and things on Euclid Avenue, time to mention the storied history of Euclid Avenue.
Oh yes, Millionaires Row. So
Yeah.
Clevelanders may remember that Cleveland, because it was such a center of innovation and growth around the turn of the 20th century, a number of the families that could do so built mansions along Euclid, and so it was nationally known as one of the prettiest, most beautiful streets in all the country, and of course was known as Millionaires Row. We make it our own now. It's a little more democratic, and we're all a part of Millionaires Row here in Cleveland.
So as we turn off of Euclid to finish our tour, we want to encourage everyone to stay in your cars after you explore Ohio City and also explore Euclid. All the way down there is Case Western Reserve University, the Cleveland Clinic, the Cleveland Museum, and an area called University Circle that is also worth exploring.
We want to thank the Cleveland Downtown Alliance for the opportunity to do Sparks again here in 2020. We want to thank you for joining us on this tour of Ohio City. Hopefully we've inspired you to maybe check out one of the other Sparks tours, or put on your comfortable shoes and a mask
and go
and come and
explore
visit.
Ohio City.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.